There are more kids in my school than it was built for, so sometimes we have to learn in the hallway.
Some of my classes are in portable classrooms. That leaves me a long ways from the rest of the school.
It's so cold in my classroom sometimes.
Cold? It's like 1,000,000 degrees in here.
It's hard to focus on my work when other kids have to cut through my class to get to theirs.
There aren't enough space for all these buses and the cars at my school. In the morning, it gets pretty crowded.
Hello, thanks for joining us. I'm Carl Click. Today we are talking about a bond measure that Vancouver voters will decide on in a special election. It's February 14th. It's going to have a major impact on Vancouver Public Schools and its ability to prepare our students for the future. Let's take a closer look. The bond would total $458 million and would take advantage of historically low interest rates. It would replace 7 schools. The median age of those schools is 50 years old. It's going to build 2 new elementary schools, keeping up with our rising population. Also would expand several schools and include some improvements for every school in the district. So joining me now to talk about the bond and how it would affect our schools, Vancouver Public Schools Superintendent Dr. Steve Webb. Thank you for being here.
Carl, it's a pleasure.
You're the guy who knows all about this because you're so integral in designing this bond and getting it out to voters. Let's start with the need, talk about those older buildings and why they need to be replaced and why they need to be rebuilt instead of just remodeled.
Yeah. We have 7 replacement schools built into the scope of this bond request. The median age of these schools is 58 years old. In the school construction industry, we build schools to last 50 years. So we've gotten greater life expectancy
Sure.
Than the standard, but they're tired schools. They need to be replaced. Frankly, it's more cost effective to replace schools rather than modernize, given code regulations and some of the challenges just in terms of the existing layout of schools.
And part of that is maintenance. An old building costs a lot of money to fix things and heat and things like that. Just the maintenance costs seem to be huge in those buildings. So once you replace them, you replace that, right?
Yeah, when you replace schools, you're looking for energy efficiencies.
Sure, yeah.
HVAC systems, boilers, windows, all of the kinds of things that decreased the costs of operating those schools.
So we talked about those elementary schools. The population is growing. So how did that play a part in what you decided to put into that bond?
Well, we've got significant challenges with overcrowding in our elementary schools. In fact, today, Vancouver Public Schools needs 100 new elementary classrooms. In today's context, we have 2,000 underhoused students, grades K through 5. Now, absent the improvements connected to this bond, our demographic forecast indicates over the next years the number of underhoused students in Vancouver Public Schools grows to 2,600 students.
Let's explain underhousing, okay? That talks about the facilities the kids are in now, they're not ready for them?
Well,
or they can't hold them.
Yeah. Underhoused students is defined by the state school construction assistance program. These are about temporary classroom spaces, portables.
Yeah. We've all seen them at the buildings,
Absolutely.
right?
And other spaces that weren't initially designed for classroom use, like hallways.
Put an art class in the cafeteria.
Absolutely, right? Those are not the preferred learning environments for our students. So really what this bond is about responding to the kind of learning environments at all of our schools and making sure that we've got permanent facilities that support student learning.
Let's talk about those 2 elementary schools, where they're going to go if the bond passes and how it helps some other schools with the extra kids.
We have 2 new elementary schools identified in the scope of this bond request. One is located on Northeast 25th Avenue. This is a 10-acre parcel that Vancouver Public Schools has had in its inventory for some time. what we're finding is significant growth in our central and northeast portion of the district. In fact, Sarah J. Anderson today has over 800 students. We just completed a classroom addition 2 years ago, and absent a new school in that part of the district, the forecast is Sarah J. Anderson's going to grow to 1,000 students in the near term, and that simply is too large for an elementary school. The other new elementary school is in the downtown core. I don't know if you know this, Carl, but there are 4,200 multifamily units in the pipeline in the city of Vancouver.
That's a lot of kids.
That's a lot of kids. And frankly, our downtown elementary school, Hauk Elementary, and historic building, we have no intention of tearing that building down, and frankly, the parcel of land that that school is on simply is not large enough for us to move that laterally. Our interest is working with the city of Vancouver to identify a parcel in the downtown core. It's not going to be a traditional elementary school. It'll be an urban elementary school, K-5 school of choice, probably focused on arts and innovation. There's a lot of entrepreneurial, creative economy stuff that's happening in the downtown core, and we think from a program perspective there's a lot of synergy that could be integrated into the learning experience.
That'll be interesting to watch if the bond passes and we can go through with that. The iTech Preparatory School right now doesn't have its own campus, but if this bond goes through, the plans are to do that, right?
Correct. iTech Prep is our 612 STEM-focused early college school of choice. The 912 campus is located at Washington State University, Vancouver. We lease space from Clark College. We've got terrific higher ed partners that we work with in terms of program experiences for students in the 912 campus. The 6-8 campus is here at the Jim Parsley Community Center. Our vision has always been to bring both of those campuses together in a permanent facility co-located at Washington State University, Vancouver.
So those are the new construction projects in the bond. Talk about the plans to expand and remodel some of the other schools.
We have 4 major modernization projects. Sacagawea Elementary School. SAC has some significant challenges, particularly in core infrastructure. We intend to expand and build a larger cafeteria, commons area, gymnasium. There are simply too many students to fit into those spaces today. We also need to build a dedicated family community resource center space. We've got some other challenges there related to siding, windows, door replacement. It's a school that needs some significant improvements. Franklin Elementary is another school that we intend to add classroom space. We placed the Mandarin Immersion program at Franklin a number of years ago, and that has generated an increase in student enrollment at that school. We've got 5 portables that are on that parcel, and we need to create some permanent space and also mitigate traffic impact because of the growth of the school in the neighborhood. Vancouver School of Arts and Academics is another project that we intend to build more classroom space, and frankly, this is a function of having more requests and demands from students and families to access that terrific program.
Got to make room for them.
Got to make room for them. So we intend to add more classroom space that would accommodate enrollment growth of approximately 200 more students at VSAA. And then the final project with a school significant modernization expansion is at Columbia River High School. This is a circa 1960 school. We've come in and done some significant improvements over time, particularly in the main building, but the 500 wing, which is across the parking lot, has not had a great deal of work and improvements over time. We intend to replace that building, relocate the 500 wing to the north side of the campus, build up, create greater capacity to offer more placements in the International Baccalaureate program at Columbia River High School too.
They're also going to improve the stadium out there at Columbia River if all goes well in the plans, right?
That's correct. We've got some unique challenges with some ADA issues with restrooms. some covered seating on both sides of that stadium, and a turf field that will give us the ability to use that year-round, not just for football and soccer, but also for community-based events.
That is just a basic requirement now to have turf for all the athletics going on, and if you don't have it, it's a disadvantage to our kids.
Oh,
right?
absolutely. And in the Pacific Northwest, as you know, with the weather,
No kidding.
it's nice to get those games in.
So stadiums, Kiggins Bowl, 1933. I feel like I've been there since it opened. I know I've been there so many times. Football, soccer games are going on there all the time. That place needs a refurbishment.
Yeah, that's a terrific venue. And what I like about Kiggins Bowl is the history of the place. Connected to the WPA Roosevelt administration, the original stadium was constructed, as you identified, in 1933. We've got some significant improvements that we need to make at Kiggins. We've got concrete deterioration that we need to shore up. We've got ADA issues with elevators and restrooms. There's an elevator that has not operated for some time simply because we can't get parts any longer to keep that elevator operating. We've got ADA issues related to restrooms. We need some covered seating on the visitors' side. But it's just a terrific venue that is really, frankly, used year-round.
I think those bleachers on the other side for the visiting team are from 1933. They are really
They might
old.
feel like that way when you're sitting on them.
So let's talk about other schools. A lot of other schools are going to see just some kind of improvement across the district.
Yeah, our approach has always been to make investments in each of our other schools when we come out with a bond request. Our last bond request to the Vancouver community was in 2001, so it's been 16 years. We take great pride in being great stewards of public resources. So when the community steps forward and makes a commitment to invest in their schools, we're going to take care of these schools. And just like your home, you have to replace periodically core systems, roofing, carpets, heating and cooling. That's one area of improvements that we will make system-wide. The other area focuses on safety and security. We have many schools that were constructed in the 1990s that do not have secure vestibules that force parents or patrons or guests to a school to move through a central location before accessing the interior core of the school. So really this is about not just protecting our children, but protecting staff and parents and patrons that are visiting our schools. And then the final focus is learning environment enhancements. This could include everything from making adjustments with ADA access in our schools to investments in technology-related infrastructure and other improvements that might create the right kind of learning environment that engages kids in these future-ready skills.
Let's talk about how you plan for a bond. As you said, it's been a long time since you've put this out to voters before. You just don't sit in your office and say, I'd like to do this, I'd like to do that. You involve a lot of people.
Yeah, Vancouver Public Schools has a rich history of community engagement. And I want to be clear, this started in 2013 with our Design 2 strategic planning process. And what our community said to us at that time was, you've got to make some investments at some point in the near term in your capital facilities, your schools, in order to ensure that our graduates are future ready. So for the past 18 months, Vancouver Public Schools has done significant internal and external public engagement. 11 design symposia related to these replacement school projects. We've conducted 26 focus groups across the other schools that will not receive significant modernization work as a way of identifying the scope of need. All of that input has helped shape these recommendations that have been brought forward to the Board of Directors.
So of course the big question for folks is, what is this going to cost me if I'm a homeowner? Before we get too deep into the numbers, let's learn more about what a bond actually is.
On February 14th, Vancouver Public Schools is asking voters to approve a bond measure. But what exactly is a bond? A bond is like a loan, taken out to pay for major construction projects. It's the way communities build new courthouses, libraries, or in this case, schools. Property owners pay a rate based on the value of their property to pay off the bond over time. In return, they get new and renovated school buildings for neighborhood children. In most cases, local bonds, like the one Vancouver is asking for, also trigger assistance funds from the state. Vancouver Public Schools bond is for $458 million, and it would build new schools to address the community's expanding population. It would rebuild several schools that are more than 50 years old and would upgrade every other school in the district.
So let's talk about the overall numbers and what an average property owner would have to pay for the bond.
The total scope of improvements is $563 million worth of investments in our 37 schools. The bond request is $458 million, so 20% of the improvements come from revenue sources that won't cost our taxpayers another cent. However, the $458 million will cost taxpayers 9 cents per thousand for 3 years. This is a temporary tax increase. Translated, for a median price home in Vancouver School District of $225,000, the annual increase in property tax collection for this request is $20. In 2021, all of our existing bond debt from our 2001 bond retires, which means that the tax rate will then fall by 17 cents per thousand. So over a course of 3 years, the taxpayer will recoup the $60 on that increased cost with that temporary tax request for 3 years.
So one of the key issues in when you do this is the construction costs. And you've done enough research to know that if you don't do it now, the cost is going to be incrementally higher, right?
Yeah, we have a window of opportunity, Carl. There are historic lows in the bond market, just over 3%. And here's what we know. Those rates are going to continue to increase. If we delay this request for 5 years, our total cost of ownership for that $458 million bond increases by 30%, another nearly $140 million. Inflation pressures related to bond rate increases, inflation pressures related to construction costs simply compounds our problem. These problems aren't going away. Right? I mean, these roofs need to be replaced. These HVAC systems need to be replaced. We've got to build more classrooms for our students. Those are the simple facts.
Yeah, they don't change.
They don't change.
Yeah, and the bond market is where you have it right now. Is it a good place to do it?
It's the best it's ever been.
So we talked about numbers and all the plans and buildings. The overall thought about this is it makes it a better place for our kids to be future ready.
Yeah, you know, listen, this certainly is a brick and mortar request, right? But at the end of the day, we've always got to keep purpose at the forefront. Frankly, this is about investing in schools that create the right kind of learning environments that will engender the right kind of learning experiences that will ensure that our graduates are future ready. Fundamentally, that's what this bond request is about, ensuring each and every one of our students are college, career, and life ready.
Dr. Webb, thanks. It's always informative to talk to you. Okay. If you want to know more about the bond, the district has plenty of resources available on the website. It's vansd.org/reschools. You can see cost breakdowns, what would happen at every school site, and much, much more. There's also contact information there if you'd like to speak with somebody at the district about the bond. The district's YouTube channel also has a collection of videos about the proposed changes at several schools. That is youtube.com/VanSDTV. Thanks for watching. I'm Carl Click.